want to go beyond the rink and into the dressing room, there's only one place to be. With a hockey reporter who was once mistaken as an NHLer by Jeff Finger, and a diehard Maple Leafs fan who has not one, but 2 Ken Baumgartner jerseys. This is the HockeyVerse with Michael Trakos and Johnny Legend. Tighten your chin strap. This could get ugly.
All right, let's get right into this. Backs against the wall. Season on the line, with fans calling for Sheldon Keefe's job and for Mitch Marner and William Nylander to be traded. Toronto Maple Leafs finally won a game against the Florida Panthers on Wednesday night. Hallelujah! Now the question is, can they win 3 more and make history? And if they don't, what happens next? Are you okay if the Leafs lose in 5 or in 6 or in 7? Or is it Stanley Cup or bust? That's sort of where I'm at right now. Yeah, the Leafs avoided total embarrassment by not getting swept in 4 games to the Panthers. But after 6 straight years of playoff failure, the goalposts have changed. They had to have. Can't be happy with a second-round loss to the Florida Panthers, no matter how many games it took. Yeah, it'd be great if the Leafs can make this competitive. They could force a Game 6 and then a Game 7. It would be monumental. They could be the 5th team in NHL history to reverse an 0-3 deficit and reach the conference final. But if it doesn't happen, what then? Are you okay that the Leafs took a baby step this year, won a round, and then fell flat on their face in the second round? Is that enough to build on? Is that enough to save jobs and keep the core 4 together? Or is anything short of a Stanley Cup considered a failure? For me, looking at the roster, which might be the best we've ever seen, in the path to the championship line in front of them, it would kind of feel that way. It would feel like a failure. Am I wrong? Am I being too harsh? Well, we'll dig into that and much, much more on today's edition of the HockeyVerse.
You just found the world's latest and greatest hockey, sports, and entertainment podcast. This is the HockeyVerse. On today's episode, we recap the Leafs' Game 4 win against the Panthers and look ahead to whether they can keep it rolling in Game 5. We're also joined by Terry Koshan of the Toronto Sun on whether the Leafs should ride or die with Joseph Woll and what Toronto can do to extend the series. By the way, check out our show notes for timestamps if you want to fast forward to your favorite part. Also, if you want to be on a future episode, email a question to heyhockeyverse@gmail.com. Hey, Curtis Joseph Woll, good job, boy.
Curtis Joseph Woll. It's kind of looking that way, isn't it? Little, or maybe Felix Potvin Woll.
Hey, and I want to say 50% of the guys on this podcast actually talked about Joseph Woll playing in the playoffs and was pretty much called an idiot.
I called you an idiot?
Not many people.
Which time did I call you an idiot?
Many people. Well, not you.
Listen, I think I might have said if anyone but Samsonov is in net, the Leafs are in hella trouble. And I'm sorry to say, Johnny, one game doesn't change this.
No.
The Leafs are in trouble right now.
100%.
Okay?
But what we said that if we see Joseph Woll, something terrible happened.
Yeah.
And
something terrible
happened.
That being said, and we're going to get Terry Koshan and his opinion on this because he covered Woll a lot this year, both with the Marlies and the Leafs. This guy's not just some e-bug goalie that came out of the stands and won a game and you're thinking, okay, is this Cinderella story going to end like that or is it going to continue? He's a legit goalie. You could argue that Joseph Woll is the future of the Leafs in the same way that, back in the early 90s, Felix Potvin was the goalie of the future for the Leafs. Mm-hmm. Like, it's not just another Ben Scrivens or James Reimer coming in.
And technically sound. He's not flopping around, swimming in his net. He's playing properly, and he's gigantic.
Yeah. No, I'm saying, there's a reason why they turned to Joseph Woll ahead of Matt Murray. And Matt Murray, the guy who won 2 Stanley Cups, basically at the same age as Joseph Woll. Mm-hmm. And that's the thing that a lot of people aren't even talking about is that there is a blueprint for this. Mm-hmm. We saw Cam Ward do it in Carolina. And if Joseph Woll needs, some advice, he could say, hey, Matt Murray was still considered a rookie after he won his second Stanley Cup with the Pittsburgh Penguins.
And who's to say that it can't happen again? I mean, you can't script it and you can't predict it, but you can't deny it either.
No, this guy's legit. When you get, like, as a goaltender, if you get drafted in the third round, that's almost the equivalent of getting drafted in the first round as like a skater.
Yeah.
So I spent 3 years at Boston College. Great numbers there. I had a really good program. With the Marlies this year, he had a .927 save percentage, 16-4-1. So he didn't come out of nowhere, folks.
Well, not just that. He played well when he played for the Leafs this season.
Yeah, limited action, obviously, but let's face it, 14 regular season games total. Mm-hmm. That's over 3 seasons.
But
so there isn't a lot to go on, but the potential is there, and we saw it in Game 4. Like, Leafs back against the walls. The season was on the line there, and you're relying on a 24-year-old rookie.
Isn't that a coincidence? Your back's against the wall, so you put in the wall.
Put in the wall. What is with this team, though, eh? They have to be down 3-0 for Mitch Marner to throw a body check.
4 body checks. And he took a whack of punches at the end of the game, too.
How many were legit body checks?
Well, they counted. Yeah. They don't ask how, they ask how many, right?
I think you'd be surprised if you told him that he had 4 body checks. But good on Marner.
Yeah.
Mixing it up with Matthew Tkachuk at the end.
Yeah, Jacob Troop is at home watching the game going, oh, they called that a hit? Isn't that cute?
For someone who doesn't read his press clippings and know what the media is saying.
Well, he was awful pissed off for somebody who doesn't read what the media says, isn't he?
Seemed pretty motivated. Seemed like he didn't want to have to answer the same questions about why he hasn't scored or why he hasn't played at the level that we saw in the regular season.
Well, when you're playing horrible in the playoffs and you're dancing at practice and you're saying, oh, the next Game 4 is going to be fun, it's not supposed to be fun. It's supposed to be war.
Yeah.
Look at that Edmonton series. That's war.
This is my biggest complaint about the Leafs this year is they play Tampa a certain way, and they go into Florida, playing Florida the same way they played against Tampa, and it's a different team.
Same state, different team.
It's like so different. And you know what? We had George Richards on from was he Florida Hockey?
Florida Hockey Now, yeah.
FloridaHockeyNow.com. He made that distinction that Tampa and South Florida are as different as it could be.
Yeah,
same state but completely different.
Florida as a state is pretty much 3 different types of people depending on where you are.
It's a huge state, and the way the Panthers play is nothing like how the Tampa Bay Lightning play. And they had a game plan against the Leafs, and the Leafs refused to go change that game plan until Game 4. Mm-hmm. And then finally it's, maybe we should get some bodies in front of Bobrovsky. Oh, maybe we should finish checks. Maybe we should play a little rougher style of game. Where was this in Games 1, 2, and 3?
Yeah, exactly. And that's what Leaf fans are mad about. We know it's there. You know it's there. You know you can play that way. What's the reason why you're not?
Does it feel like it's too little, too late?
Well, here's the thing. I didn't want that game to happen last night. Like, in the time between game 3 and Game 4, because of the worry of it being over, right? As long as it doesn't happen, it's not over.
Explain that. What do you mean?
So as long as they're not playing, they can't lose.
Okay.
Yeah. So instead of 2 days between games, how about 4 days between? Let's extend the season a little longer.
You wanted like a 2-month break.
Yeah. How about a 2-month? But let's pick this up in August. Yeah.
Well, here's the thing. I was feeling optimistic after they're down 0-2. I still think Toronto's been the better team this series. You know what? After down 3-1, I almost think like they're playing a little bit looser now. After
seeing the way that Joseph Woll played last night, I'm optimistic. Because I said it in the first 3 games, even against Tampa Bay, how quickly Samsonov was going down, and they were just putting it up over his shoulder. And Florida was doing that right from Game 1, but then when it came Joseph Woll, you got this giant guy in there that plays technical, and they didn't know what to do. Yeah, just firing it right into his chest.
When Florida made it a 1-goal game, though.
Oh, yeah, my butthole puckered.
That's your famous line.
Yeah, my butthole puckered, and I'm watching, 5 minutes and 40 seconds, dumping it. Okay, that gets us 30 seconds.
Did you see the play that Luke Schenn made?
Yeah.
On, Verhaeghe?
Save the Verhaeghe going.
Cuts the net, and I'm like, oh, no, he's going to.
Luke Schenn bit all the way on that, like a largemouth bass, and then he came back and saved it.
Dives, gets the stick out. and they're yelling, "What a great active stick!" And
he got beat.
But that's the thing with Luke Schenn. Fine, he doesn't have the foot speed or the mobility of a Morgan Riley, but he gets beat and he finds a way.
The fundamentals are there.
He's a grinder.
Rule number 1 is get the puck out, and that's what he does.
By any means necessary.
Yep. And he doesn't play around with it behind the net or in the corner. He gets it and it's out.
Meat and potatoes, man. Meat and potatoes.
You notice that there were no muffin backhands in front of the net by Mitch Marner this game?
I'm telling you, man, Luke Schenn, I don't know what his contract status is. I don't have it in front of me. The Leafs got to find a way to keep this guy in the roster.
Well, he bought a house, didn't he?
He loves it here. He's out west though. It's gonna be. I don't know how much he loves it in Toronto, but
I noticed Ryan O'Reilly. He put a 90-mile-an-hour backhand on Bobrovsky last night. You see that? That was a rocket. I don't know if it was 90, but it was a rocket.
Have you seen his blade on his stick?
No, is it? It's straight.
So it goes up here. You see the video. So it goes straight up. And then it's like a 90-degree right turn, and then it comes down again. It's like
a coat hanger.
It's almost like you have a Christmas wreath.
Yeah.
And you put it on your door, and that hook that like latches onto the top of the door. That's kind of what it looks like. I don't know how he shoots with that thing, but I think it's purposely done that way for face-offs.
Probably, yeah, I would imagine.
Just weird. I love always looking at hockey players and the way that their sticks are and the blades and the kind of tape jobs they use, especially on the knob. No two-player stick is the same. It's funny. They always put their number on the top. Mm-hmm. It's like, don't worry. No one's confusing Ryan O'Reilly's stick with like Luke Schenn's or something.
Have you ever seen the guy on the bench that takes care of the sticks when the players in the ice? And
Bobby Hastings.
He's got his hands on them as they're skating around. They change and he's ready to go, man.
Bobby Hastings is the man. I once did a story where I had to interview him because Jeff O'Neill, this is when he was playing, he was going through a cold spell, and I was trying to be cute with the story. Like, how do I talk about Jeff O'Neill hasn't scored in like 8 games? So I was like, okay, you don't score, your sticks get cold. Yeah. So I asked Bobby, I was like, where do you keep the sticks, man? I'm like, you keeping them in the cold cellar or what? He goes, no, room temperature. And Jeff O'Neill gave me the best quote. He goes, the way my stick's playing, he's like, I think Bobby's keeping it in the in the cold cellar right now. I'm like, oh, this is great. So, William Nylander had a big game too, eh, Johnny?
Yeah, he was looking good too. I don't ever worry when he gets
like
the puck.
Two guys though. Eh?
Yeah, but I don't worry when he gets the puck. I never did. Yeah. I just worry when he disappears. That's all. As long as he's not going to disappear, he's going to be the best player on the ice.
You take the good and the bad with William Nylander, and I've said it like until I'm blue in the face. Like, William Nylander is not the problem right now.
No,
you just need Auston Matthews to find the back
when's
of the
he going to show up, man?
He's
trying hard, but if they can win without him, imagine when he shows up and he starts putting 2 in.
That's the thing. We haven't seen bad Bob yet. Even last night, you only let 2 goals in. I thought he looked pretty sound. Once Bobrovsky's game goes to shit.
Yeah, before game 4, he'd won 6 in a row.
Like, this could turn real quick. Mm-hmm. And once Austin just goes on and starts scoring, he scores in bunches.
Yeah, once he figures it out, yeah.
It's like you turn the faucet on, it's just like... Whew.
Once he gets taste the blood in his mouth, he's like a hound.
Yeah, I'm feeling a little better. We'll see, though. Like, there's only 1 day off between games. They're back in Toronto. That Toronto crowd can go either way. I feel like the playoff Toronto crowd's been pretty good, though. Mm-hmm. I was down there for game 1 of the series. Best crowd I've seen in a long time.
Are you going down for game 5?
I don't know yet. It's a Friday night. Friday nights, I kind of want to watch it and have a couple pops.
Yeah, that Maple Leaf Square crowd's pretty heavy, eh?
Yeah.
That's where the fans are. There's no suits in that crowd.
No. You know the best crowd of the year Scotiabank Place is World Juniors, the Connor McDavid year.
Oh, I can imagine.
Gold medal game against Russia. The place was as loud as I've ever been in an arena. So we'll see if the Leafs can get it jacked up there.
Well, speaking of Connor McDavid, that's one thing I'd like to see out of the Leafs big guys. Do you see what happened when Draisaitl got slashed across the arms? Who went after him? Connor McDavid.
Good teammate.
Yeah, I don't think you'd ever see Auston Matthews or...
Do you want him fighting after seeing him fight Steven Stamkos?
But I want to
see that again. How many gloves did he have on?
But that's what woke him up in that series.
True. That was
after that, I think he scored 5 goals.
Forever ago, doesn't it?
I know. So when is I think the final of every series goes 7 games, and it make it to July this year?
Yeah. Have you ever heard, I've ever told you my idea for playoffs and how to kind of keep it fresh?
7 games in a row?
No, here we go. First round's the best, right? Keep that as a best of 7. Then it kind of peters out as you go on, and summer gets hotter and stuff. Right now I'm sweating balls. I don't know about you. Second round, best of 5.
In the second round?
Yeah. Third round, best of 3.
Stanley Cup winner takes all?
Stanley Cup, you do it like a Super Bowl. You get like a week build-up. You do the media day, neutral site, have it in Vegas, have it wherever. Do it in Cancun if you want. Just build up, right?
How about the
winner
center
takes
of the
all
HockeyVerse every year?
Yeah. But wouldn't that be good, though? Best of 7, second round, best of 5, best of 3, and then a winner take all, just one game, done it.
Yeah, it would be amazing.
We're done by May 2-4.
Now that you think about it, and that's when you put it on May 2-4, on that Sunday.
Anything after May 2-4 is baseball season. Like, when do you start your baseball or your softball?
Tuesday.
Do you really?
Yeah.
There you go. See, once Johnny starts hitting yard, hockey's done, okay?
Yeah. No, unless the Leafs are still in it. Then you get games on the bench.
It just goes, it drags on. And, the first round's always the best, and it just gets a little weaker and weaker. Although this year's been pretty good. That Edmonton-Vegas series, you've been watching a lot of that?
That is a violent series.
And it's just like one team blows out the other, and then the next game it's like vice versa, then it's back the other way, and you're like, oh, Edmonton's in trouble. Oh, no, Vegas is in trouble. And what the hell was, you talked about Pietrangelo. Nasty slash on Draisaitl.
Oh, I think he's suspended.
That could be a series-defining,
he might be gone.
Idiotic move, man.
He might be gone for the rest of the series.
I didn't like it at all. No reason to slash him.
Slash him in the shin pads. You don't need to put it across his arms.
Just hit him.
Draisaitl?
Just hit him.
Yeah, but even if you're going to slash him, you don't slash him across the arms.
No. And didn't he have a wrist injury last year? He
Draisaitl?
Yeah, he played with a wrist injury. Like, Draisaitl's not a dirty player. Just dumb. And it's the kind of play that you don't expect from Pietrangelo either. Which is like shocking.
He did get drilled pretty good though, but
who hit him? Was it
I think it was
it Nuge? No.
No, was it Patrick Kane? Or not Evander Kane?
Kane's been a menace, man.
Oh, he's always a menace. That's why I love that guy.
I'm telling you, man, the Leafs.
He changed that team.
When he signed with the Oilers, I talked to his agent, and they had reached out. It was Dan Milstein, his agent. They had reached out to Toronto. Zero interest.
Really?
And reached out to Ken Holland. Ken Holland did his research. And by research, I mean he went to the dressing room, talked to Connor, talked to all the leaders there, and said, listen, we're thinking of bringing this guy on. He's notoriously been a problem in a lot of dressing rooms. Do you guys want him? And they said, yeah, we'll handle whatever garbage he brings. Haven't heard a peep out of Evander Kane.
No. Well, he grew up. He learned his lesson.
I think maybe it was a strong enough room. Maybe he realized, hey, I'm in a good spot here. This might be my last opportunity.
Yeah, I think that's what happened. He got a taste of what it's like to not have hockey and not have the money, and he's like, I could lose everything for being an idiot.
Yeah, because the talent's there, obviously.
If you didn't change after Dustin Byfuglien tried to teach you a lesson.
But you know what's funny? So that whole Kane thing started from Winnipeg and them throwing his clothes into the.
It was Dustin Byfuglien did that, yeah.
Well.
And what was it? He just missed practice or something, didn't he? And then.
But now, what are we saying about Winnipeg?
Yeah.
That room it got issues. It's Scheifele. It's Wheeler. It's a lot of those guys. And so now you're going, Byfuglien's not there.
Yeah.
Kane's not there. The problems are still persisting.
Yeah.
What gives? And then he goes to Buffalo. Oh, that's a problem. Well, then what are we hearing about Buffalo now? Well, Eichel might have been the problem, or Reinhart might have been the problem, or those guys might have been the problem. So maybe it's
not him.
Maybe it's not Evander Kane. Maybe he was just kind of in the wrong place at the wrong time.
Or maybe he's one of those guys that hangs around with the wrong person.
I'm not hearing a peep though since he's been to Edmonton. The guys love him there, and he's been so effective. And I'm thinking to myself, like, you know what Toronto could use right now is an Evander Kane.
You mean Wayne Train?
Oh man.
Wayne's
not getting in now.
Wayne Train used to be Evander Kane.
Totally. I still think I think the time to put Wayne Simmons in has come and gone. They blew it. I think he should have been in there for Game 3 instead of this 7D 11 forward mix. Still don't understand it.
No, but how good did Giordano play?
When he finally got some ice?
Yeah.
Don't get me started there. Want to go around the league here, talk about some stuff?
Yeah, let's talk about some stuff.
It's Connor Bedard. We had Mark Seidel from North American Central Scouting on the other day talking about who is going to get Connor Bedard. Anaheim had the best chances of getting him. Instead, Chicago moves up.
Did you hear about Chicago season tickets?
They sold like $2 million
in
worth.
1 hour after they won the draft lottery.
It's not fair. You bid goodbye to the Jonathan Toews, Patrick Kane era, which included 3 Stanley Cups.
It's almost
and
like
dynasty.
It was scripted, isn't it? It's almost like they knew.
Hey, I'm happy that Connor Bedard is going there versus Arizona or Anaheim because at least it's a marquee place. So like when TNT is doing the game or ESPN or NBC or whatever, it's a ratings bonanza. We're going to see a lot of Bedard.
And it's also good for the Leafs because no Bedard in Arizona.
Yeah.
Auston Matthews isn't going to go. He's not going to want to go there. No.
Maybe Patrick Kane resigns for the Blackhawks.
You think that's a thing?
I don't know.
Is he out of contract?
I just think it's going to be good for the league. The best thing would have been had he gone to Vancouver. It was like very low percentage chance that was going to happen. But yeah, I don't want to see him in Anaheim. I think that's a waste. Arizona, complete waste. But Chicago, yeah.
And Chicago's early enough. Their games are 8:30, right?
Yeah, just 1 hour difference from Toronto.
See, that's the thing. When you go down to the West Coast, you kind of get lost a little bit.
Oh, big time.
I mean, if it wasn't Connor McDavid, he'd get lost.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Can you imagine if he was on prime time every night? 7:30 game, 7 o'clock game? Like they even changed some of the playoff games to put them on at 7:30 just because of him.
Oh, that's great. And then, so congratulations, and I'm going to say condolences to this year's Jack Adams finalists, Lindy Ruff of New Jersey, Dave Haxtell of Seattle, and Jim Montgomery of Boston. The reason I say condolences there, Johnny, last year's finalists, Andrew Brunette from Florida, Daryl Sutter from Calgary, Gerard Gallant from the Rangers. What do those 3 guys have in common?
I think they've all been fired.
Isn't that brutal? Kiss of death, man.
Yeah, I don't. It's not a trophy you want to win, eh?
No, and it's not like the first time that's happened either.
And it's not even the only sport.
We usually coach of the year in other sports, same difference.
Basketball, the Raptors, Dwayne Casey won coach of the year, got fired that summer.
Yeah.
Nick Nurse won it 2 years ago, got fired.
Know what my theory on that is? So if you get Jack Adams Award winners are usually teams that overachieved. So you take a team that no one is picking for the playoffs and you get them there. What happens the next year is those expectations are very rarely met.
Mm-hmm.
So of the 3 finalists, though, like Lindy Ruff and the Devils, I think the Devils are going to be good again next year. Montgomery with the Bruins, hell, that's the one I'm worried about. That and Haxtell with the Seattle Kraken. Well, maybe the Kraken will be good, but yeah, I almost feel like the Bruins are due for a dip, and I almost think that of the teams that made the playoffs this year, I think the Bruins could be one of those teams that misses, especially if Bergeron decides to pack it in and Krejci decides to pack it in as well. So, and then we're talking about coaches, and here's an interesting one. There's a lot of coaching vacancies right now, and I bring that up because we'll see what happens with Toronto and how they perform in Game 5, but a lot of talk that if Toronto loses in Game 5, we might be seeing the end of the Kyle Dubas, Sheldon Keefe era. Both guys are now being linked to Pittsburgh. I don't know if that's going to happen, but
I was reading some tweets. The Pittsburgh fans don't want them.
They don't want.
They don't want Sheldon Keefe. No.
Well, they don't have a GM right now, and you got Mike Sullivan, who's just got a new extension. There's talk now Mike Sullivan might be going to the Rangers. Like this summer is going to be an interesting one for coaches because you got Peter Laviolette without a job, Gerard Gallant's without a job, Dallas Aikens, who's now become a mainstay on Sportsnet, is without a job. Joel Quenneville's interviewing. Mike Babcock has been linked to the Rangers. Patrick Waugh has been linked to some teams as well. It's going to be really interesting. That's why I kind of watch what happens with the Leafs this year, because if Toronto goes out in 5, I still think Sheldon Keefe's going to have to bite the bullet.
I think Sheldon Keefe's already fired.
Win or
to tell
lose?
you the truth, yeah.
One of
Just
those scenarios?
bad decisions. I just think his sticking to his stupid line matching.
Yeah.
I think he's fired. I think he's gone. I think everybody's sick of it. Look what's
disagree, man.
Look what's happening when he's just putting out the big guys. Better things are happening.
Yeah.
Right?
You ride and die with your stars, man.
They could have one game. I keep saying it. They could have one game left. No need to save them. Right? They know when they're tired. They're not going to stay on the ice if they can't skate. They're going to come off. Right?
Yeah.
Play them. Play them into the ground. Play them like they're a 1990 Mercury Topaz and just drive it into the ground.
You're paying them 50% of your cap. They should be getting 50% of the ice time.
Yeah. 50% of the responsibility at least.
Yeah. No, I think Game 5 we're going to see a big game out of Matthews. Tavares, he's been quiet this series. Toronto's either going to win or lose with their stars.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, I'm with you. Stars got to be as good as they were in Game 3. And in Game 3, Marner showed up, Nylander showed up. And, yeah, I'm kind of curious now. Maybe we should go pick up the phone, see what Terry Koshan of the Toronto Sun
let's see what
has
Koshan
to think about all this.
I used to know a guy that wrote for the Toronto Sun.
Yeah. Interesting. Wonder who that is.
All right, let's go to Terry.
Terry Koshan of the Toronto Sun. All right, we're going to go to the phone lines where we've got Terry Koshan, Leaf reporter for the Toronto Sun. How you doing there, Terry?
I'm good, guys. How are you?
Doing all right. I'm kind of curious. Joseph Woll played the game of his life in Game 4. Are you ride or die now with Joseph Woll?
Ride. Well, listen. Here's why. There's a couple of things here. The nice thing for the Leafs is they're not forced into this choice. Woll played well last night. He was composed and confident. Now you're not looking at it going, "Oh well, we barely scraped by with this guy. Should we be turning to Matt Murray in net? Samsonov not ready to go, so he's not an option." But the Leafs don't have to think about those things. Joseph Woll, you're talking about ride or die, Mike. So what we're looking at is beyond Game 5 then, because if he wins tomorrow night, then he goes right back in Sunday night in Game 6. The Leafs like to take their time with goaltenders. We saw that with Murray coming back from concussion. Woll is making it so that they don't have to rush Samsonov back. Not that they would, but yes, ride him. He's 20. The other thing too is we got to remember, Woll is not a young guy per se. He is 24 years old. He doesn't have the NHL experience.
Yeah,
but he's been around for a bit, got through the injuries and all that, and so he's matured in other ways. He's not a 20-year-old kid. He's 24, but been for a bit, so he has some of that experience. So he's the guy now. I don't think there's any doubt.
It's not like an Eric Shalgren that they're throwing in there. Like, this guy's got a bit of a pedigree. He did what he did in Boston at the college level. He had a great year with the Marlies this season. Shouldn't be totally surprising that he could come in there and it's more than just mop-up duty in my mind.
And not just that, he did well when he played for the Leafs in the season.
Yeah.
That's right. So the Leafs, so that's the other thing too is you're not putting in an unknown. He did well for the Leafs during the regular season. The guys know him. They all really like him. Played a bit last season, did well then as well. So, it's not an unknown by any stretch of imagination. You know what I really liked about the game last night too, guys, is if you listen to what they were saying in the morning, they were saying, look, we gotta help him tonight, support him. Not so much protect him, but certainly give him that support. So what do? They went out and did it in spades. I mean, the Leafs really couldn't have been much better defensively last night than they were in front of Joseph Woll. I just thought they were great, and they have the confidence in him. But when they're playing that way in front of him, listen, I know the season's on the line. But when they're playing that way in front of them, they like the guy and they want to see him do well, of course. But they really helped him out in that regard last night in Game 4.
You think they? You think
time.
they? Yeah. You think they
Yeah,
sent?
yeah.
You think they sent a message to Florida that, hey, this is how we play?
Oh, for sure they did. There's no doubt. And you know what? Florida can say all they want, and Paul Maurice is great at deflecting. He often has us on our media side, as you know quite well, Mike, in the palm of his hand. It's fine.
Mm-hmm.
You know, he's been around the block 1,000 times in the National Hockey League. Fact of the matter is, he still didn't close it out last night. You lost. Now you're going back to Toronto, where I would imagine that Scotiabank Arena will be among the loudest you've ever heard it. So, you know, you want to place, as Sheldon Keefe has been saying, you want to make the Panthers a little bit uncomfortable. They've done that now, no matter what the Panthers are going to say. Yes, they're still in control of the series and all that, but they've now lost the game. And the Leafs are needing confidence from that. So I think it's really big in that regard, and we'll see where it goes. But, you know, it's not a must-win for Florida. Obviously, we know that. You know, they lose, they go back home for Game 6. But now you put a little bit of doubt into the way they're thinking, and you know, good on the Leafs for doing that.
Well, let's face it, Leafs have been the better team in 3 of 4 games. I know the results are what the results are, but at least you go home thinking, you know, they have outplayed the Panthers in 3 of those games. So if there's anything to kind of take some confidence in, is that, you know, stick to the process, and who knows what's going to happen.
Oh, for sure. And you know what? Yeah, they're not going home saying we stole one. We're lucky. Thank God. They will not be thinking that in the flight home this afternoon. Not even close. So, yeah, I mean, again, take the confidence you have that now you say, okay, well, we know we had played well in a couple of these games but hadn't won. And, you know, they're still not scoring a lot of goals. But now that you've won in the manner in which you won, that's got to give you a lot more confidence than scraping by the skin of your teeth and barely getting out of Florida alive, which is not what happened at all. So I think the manner helps for sure. You look at it at the end of the day and say, well, there's now a tick in the W column, but the manner in which it happened is big. And you're right, Mike. I mean, knowing that they had played better than Florida for a lot of stretches in the first 3 games, but now there's some meat behind it with the win.
Where do you stand there, Terry, on the idea that, like, say Florida wins Game 5? Where do you stand on, like, how we evaluate this team? Because I feel like, you know, if the Leafs lose in 4, they get swept. It's like alarm bells are going off. They're trading Nylander. They're trading Marner. At least that's what a lot of people are going to be shouting. And Keefe's got to go. Even Dubas has got to go. Have we kind of changed the narrative a bit just with that one win? Or is it got to go? Is it Leafs in 6 if they lose? Then it's hey, you made a baby step by at least winning a round, or is it still, hey, they got to get to the conference final? Where do you stand in that regard?
It's hard to say, Mike. It's a hard question to answer because, you know, you almost look at it and say, well, it shouldn't come down to one game. Like that. Maybe it did had they been swept and they lose last night, and then we're talking about much different things today. But now, if you lose tomorrow night, but you play as well as you did last night, you know, it shows that it was there. And, you know, people are, compared to what the Edmonton Oilers are doing out with Vegas in their series, I mean, they're playing well. They're not playing against the goalie who is standing on his head out there. And Bobrovsky here with the Maple Leafs is to a degree. He's been a real difference in this series for Florida. So, you know, a 5-game loss or a 6-game loss, whatever it is, even if they lose in 7, looks a lot better on paper than a sweep does, obviously. But yeah, it's a hard one to say. Do you run everything back? I don't think so. But then you look at that and say, okay, then what changes are made? You know, how significant are they? But you know, it's interesting, the narrative, guys, because now we are talking about this, right? Yeah. And 48 hours ago, 24 hours ago, it was, no, they lose tonight in Game 4. You know, you take your arm, you sweep everything off the desk, and you start over again. I'm not so sure that happens now, but I also don't sit on the board at MLSE. So it's hard to know what they're thinking if the Leafs lose in Game 5.
Well, and what's different, I don't know how you feel, Johnny, but it was like they didn't just win Game 4 to kind of like quiet down all that kind of noise that was going on that Terry's just talking about, but it was the guys who responded. William Nylander, Mitch Marner, Like two guys that in our previous episode we're talking about which of those two guys are you trading in the summer?
Well, as the Leaf fan, you know how Leaf fans are. When they're losing, you want to get rid of everybody, and when they're winning, they always have a chance as long as they're in it, right?
Yeah. Was that a big one, do you think, there, Terry, for Marner and just, the summer that lies ahead? If he had gone another game without scoring, another game without producing, like, do you think a lot of pressure just came off his shoulders there?
Well, I think it's still on, Mike, but I definitely think that, the way he played after his defiance with reporters the day before, and we don't listen to this, no one listens to that, no one cares. He took that anger and channeled it last night, and I think that was really key. I mean, scoring the goal that he does, it's exactly what the Leafs have been talking about, getting more people in front of Bobrovsky, and I'm pretty sure it was Ryan O'Reilly had the screen on that play. Bobrovsky doesn't see it. Otherwise, stoppable shot. It's not like Mitch, cranked the one-timer from the blue line and reminding us of the things Al McInnes used to do. They got the puck on net. And there were other things that Marner did during the game. Just, I think there was one of the penalty kills. I think he was on the ice for the Reinhart goal, but one of the penalty kills, he took the puck and ragged it for quite a bit, ate up a huge chunk of time as he does. 4 hits from Mitch Marner, which was third most among Leafs last night. I mean, that never ever happened. So he was into it. He knew what he had to bring, and he brought it, and he made an impact. And it's not a surprise, but now we got to see more of that here going forward from him.
And at the end of the game with Tkachuk there, I think, do you think he showed like two things? Number one, he got a little bit under Tkachuk's skin, got in his kitchen a little bit, and then showed that he wouldn't be pushed around. Like, go ahead.
He was laughing.
Well, I think, not being pushed around for sure. I don't know if it's how easy it is to get under Matt Tkachuk's skin. Obviously, the two of these guys have a history, right? A history of a hell of a lot of success the London Knights. So they go back to that. Things are done in a playoff series. I like the way Marner handled that whole thing because he knows damn well if he pushes back that ball, I shouldn't laugh, but he knows he's going to get filled in, right?
Oh, big time.
So so I like the way that Marner handled that whole thing, and good for him. Coming out later, doesn't give a what about it all, but I liked it. But again, getting under Matt Tkachuk's skin, I don't know how easy that is, and I certainly think you'd have to do more than not take him overly seriously at the end of a game and a scrum like that.
Hey, Terry, you talked to Mike Richards the other day about how to overcome a 3-0 deficit. What kind of things do you think the Leafs could learn from what Richards said and that LA team that was able to kind of do what few other teams have been able to do over the history of the NHL?
Yeah, you know what? LA and Philly for Mike, and the only guy to do it, right? I mean, twice.
It's crazy.
Jeff Carter,
he was part of 2 teams that did it.
I know, and Jeff Carter was his teammate of both, but was hurt when Philly came back to beat Boston and didn't play in that series. So Mike's really the only guy that's been on the ice to do it twice. But what he said was, both times he said, and it was 2 vastly different, things, the vast teams and all that, but only 4 years apart. But what he said was, look, it was really true about just getting the first one, because now that you've done that, you're doing 2 things. You're planting a little seed in the opponent, but now you've got confidence going into the next one. And one thing he did say, I think by the end of each of those series, the teams were just flying. And they had that idea of, well, nothing's going to stop us now. And sure enough, it didn't happen. So that whole mental thing, you think, okay, well, NHL players, why don't they have that all the time? But they're like anybody else. I mean, it could come and go depending on the situations. But the other thing he said, too, which I think, I don't know if the scores in the LA San Jose series necessarily reflected it, but he said, and this applies to Leafs, in the early going, they thought they had played well in both series, but lost 3 times. So they had that too. They weren't going into Game 4 either time thinking we just had our butts spanked here 3 games in a row, and now we're just hanging on by our fingernails. So that was key as well, and I think that's what we saw here, what we have seen here with the Leafs. You alluded to it earlier, Mike, about how they'd been the better team for a lot of chunks of the first 3 games. So that was key too. But it's funny, we talk about the commonalities of these things, but they do ring true when they do happen. And it's on the Leafs now that, as much as we say the momentum doesn't carry from game to game in the playoffs, to at least remember what got them there last night and to apply that Friday night in Toronto.
Yeah, and that LA series, they were down 3-0 in the first period of Game 7 too, right?
Yeah. So there again, it's funny how it works.
I think even in the Philly-Boston one, they were down 3-0.
Yeah, in the in-game, I didn't look at the specifics, but in-game situations, I mean, you don't want to be down 3-0 in any game, whether you're facing elimination or not. But it was interesting too, guys. You look at that. I think in 2011, were there not two series where the team that was down 3-0 came back to tie it, but then lost in Game 7? So there is that. I think that's only happened about 5 times in NHL history where a team has come back to tie the series, then lost the clincher. So that can happen as well. But let's see the Leafs can get to Game 7 where we're talking what can happen. And certainly they started that path now. And like I say, 24 hours ago, we probably didn't think we'd be having this conversation, but they proved a lot of people wrong last night.
Well, let's face it. Like I know Toronto's now without their number one goalie. Say what you want about Joseph Woll, but on paper, and then the Leafs could look at themselves right now and say, on paper, this team is a lot better than Florida. And they finished higher than Florida in the standings. The additions that Kyle Dubas made at the deadline have provided them with everything they need to succeed in the playoffs. So, and what we're talking about, like games 1 and 2, Toronto was the better team. So, it's not like you have to make up some sort of belief and be like, oh, we're a team of destiny, or we can just make it happen. It's like, just look around you. You've got a stacked team, a team that should be competing for a Stanley Cup. Just a matter of getting the wins. And maybe one win can lead to 2, but I think Toronto, in my mind, they've got to at least force a Game 6, if not a Game 7, for me to say, okay, the offseason, it's not going to be a fire sale, or you're not going to start firing Sheldon Keefe or questioning whether Nylander or Marner needs to go. One win doesn't do that for me. I think you need to get that second win, if not that third win, to at least quiet fans and say, okay, this was a successful season. You took a step forward. Right now, it just feels like, the past 6 years don't change this winning one round in my mind. I don't know how you feel.
Well, it's like I said earlier, let's see how Game 5 goes. But if they lose tomorrow night, something is going to happen during the summer. You're just not sure what, right? So we'll see how that goes. But one positive, if you want to look at it that way, win or lose tomorrow night, or win, and then you lose in Game 6, you have a hell of a better idea of what you have in net now. And to me, a key would be to get out from under the Matt Murray contract somehow during the summer, because he's got 4.6, one more year to go. Samsonov is an RFA, and Joseph Woll is Joseph Woll. So you'll have Woll and Samsonov going forward if that's the way you choose. You're going to have to be financially do some things financially if you decide to keep the core 4, because there's already a lot of money gone, and they don't have a lot of people signed right now. I mean, beyond the core 4 up front, I think it's Lafferty, Nyes, and Yarncroke, and that could be it. So you're going to have to sign a lot more depth players. Who wants to come back? Who doesn't? You have to make some changes on the blue line. Point is, quite a bit's going to have to happen anyway.
Yeah.
But it's just then, to what degree is it okay? Now we're getting a new coach in here, and if not, is there any? There's so many more ways they could go. But I guess that the lesson for us here, guys, and to a degree, is let's get through Game 5 first and beyond, because, like I said, we all had the obituaries for this team written and ready to go, and last night, like I said, they proved everybody wrong and showed how they could play. So you know that's there. You kind of look at it and go, even though they were the better team in the first few games, if you want to say that, which we can, they still didn't play as they did last night.
Yeah.
And, we know now, they know better than anything, not the observers. They know it can work, and they can make it work. So
and wait till when Auston Matthews shows up.
Yeah.
Well, and you know what? The thing is, he's not getting those chances.
No.
Like, there was a play early last night. He went hard to the net and, kind of skirted in front of Bobrovsky. Nothing came of it. But you're looking like, okay, keep doing that sort of thing. He had his shots on goal last night. He had his attempts. He's getting shots from where he does score from in a lot of cases, but so that is encouraging. And Mark Giordano said it best though when they were going down to Florida for 3-4. He said, "Look, chances don't count if you don't win. You got to just go out there and win." So they do it in Game 4, but yeah, you'd like to see a greater contribution, actual production from a guy like Auston Matthews, and to a lesser degree too, John Tavares as well. Marner and Nylander did it last night. Let's see who brings it tomorrow night.
Yeah, I think the big difference for me is, they have a plan A, and finally in Game 4, when plan A wasn't working, they went to a plan B. And whether that means Mitch Marner's throwing weight around or you're crashing hard to the net, it was just a different flavor of a game. And it was recognizing that Florida Panthers aren't the Tampa Bay Lightning.
Mm-hmm.
So. Yeah. And you know what, too? You're driven by, if you're the Leafs, obviously you're driven the motivating factors. We don't win tonight, we're done. So again, bring it. It's the same thing happening in Game 5. I mean, and do it right from the opening faceoff. The other thing I liked about the game last night, too, guys, the Leafs weren't tentative off the start. They just weren't. Mm-hmm. Were they after it as hard as you would like them to be? Maybe not, but they weren't sitting back waiting. And then in the third period, they didn't play that way either. I just like the way they played from start to finish, and the fact that Joseph Woll saw just about everything, and when there was you're thinking, there's going to be a second chance for Florida, that just never really happened. So it all added up to something really good, and you throw it in the bottle if you're Sheldon Keefe somehow, put it on the flight for the traveling home today, and uncork it again tomorrow night.
Yeah. Well, this team plays its best hockey, it seems like, whether it's in game or in series, with its backs against the wall. So we'll see what happens in Game 5 in Toronto. We want to thank Terry Koshan from the Toronto Sun. You can find him at Kosh Toronto Sun on Twitter. For Johnny Legend, I'm Michael Trikos, and this was the HockeyVerse. We'll see you next time at the rink.
Thank you for listening to the HockeyVerse. If you enjoyed this show, please share the love by subscribing, leaving us a 5-star rating and review wherever you listen, and by introducing the HockeyVerse to your friends and family. Also, be sure to check out thehockeyverse.com. While you're there, sign up for our newsletter. It's specifically written for you, the diehard fan. From insider news to opinion and analysis, our NHL-focused newsletter will entertain and equip you for the conversations of the day. We thank you for your support, and until next time, this is the HockeyVerse.